And speaker number 2 of the evening is myself, named Jeffrey Davis. With that said, I would like to call up my evaluator for the evening. And my evaluator is the wonderful Michelle.
Michelle. I didn't know if you
And it's at 8 to 10, I believe.
6 to 8.
Okay. Okay.
I have the pleasure of introducing Jeff Davis this evening. He will be speaking from the storytelling manual, and it's project number 4, 6 to 8 minutes. And he is working toward his ACS. The storytelling project, the objective of the storytelling project is to implement techniques to arouse emotion in storytelling. That's the overarching objective. What Jeff would like us to be focused and targeting in on is engagement. How much are you engaged in his story? And if not, why not? So if you could be cognizant of that, he would appreciate it. So without further, I'm sorry. Yeah, unplanned.
Actually, an extra one.
The title of the speech is Unplanned Events. 6 to 8 minutes.
Thank you.
6 to 8 minutes, Jeff Davis.
Planning, planning, and more planning. It's not uncommon for many of us to spend countless hours planning. Have you ever had a moment in your life where you just felt like you were totally engrossed in planning an event or some kind of future probability that you were trying to control the outcome of, whether or not you really were in control of it? I'm the ultimate planner. My little brother Jamie makes fun of me and he laughs when I was younger he would go up into my room and he would see endless to-do lists of all the many hundreds of things I was planning to do. This story, very ironically, is coming from the ultimate planner. But there is something that I experienced that completely shattered my notions of planning. And it taught me how to be spontaneous and in the moment. And up until that moment, I was always reading about proper living, and I was always thinking about it, and ironically, I was always planning. But I was never actually doing until this moment. 19 through 20 years old, about 5 years ago, I was in Budapest, Hungary for an entire capital year. I traveled all around Europe and went to literally nearly every country in Europe, and I also traveled around Asia. I was ranting and raving about Budapest to my dad and my little brother, and they're like, Jeff, they call me up on my Vodafone, Jeff, we have to see what you're raving about. Budapest is a hidden gem. Not a lot of Americans really know about it, but we want to come visit you. So I was wrapping up 2 semesters of studying. I was working a full-time job in downtown Budapest. I was playing a Hungarian baseball team. My dad and brother came and visited me. We had a blast. Have you ever acted as a tour guide in any kind of city when you're either traveling or showing around friends or family? Because it was really funny how I experienced Budapest again, even after living there for so long, by showing them around the city. Now something remarkable happened. I didn't know if I was going to stay this summer or not. But when my dad and little brother were on their way home, I spontaneously decided to get on the connector flight with them by buying a last-minute ticket. So I flew with them from Budapest to Brussels. I didn't know if I was going back to my home in Connecticut, if I was going to travel Europe, or go back to Budapest. But I was in kind of a nebulous deciding stage. When I landed in Brussels, I said, Dad, I have to travel Europe. I was just in Budapest for 8 months straight, 2 semesters like I said, but I didn't really get to explore too much of Western Europe. I went to Prague, Istanbul, Budapest. That was all on the eastern side of Europe, but I didn't really get the real part of Europe that I wanted, the western side. where a lot of epic things happen. So they supported my decision and said, Jeff, go for it. You've read about this moment in your whole life, just go for it. And I really appreciate that, he really saw in me that I just wanted to get out there and continue traveling. So I'm in Brussels. I remember that feeling where I'm by myself right now. I'm in Europe. I had Europe on a string. I could go wherever I wanted. And even though I was in Brussels, I said, I need to go down to Paris. I just got this intuitive feeling. There was no rhyme or reason to it. I had no plans. I didn't have anywhere to stay. I knew no one in Paris, and there was no particular reason why I even went there to begin with. I just said intuitively, I'm going to Paris. Hopped on Thalys speed train, one of the fastest trains in the world, hopped down from from Brussels to Paris. Now when I arrived in Paris, I looked out in the city in front of me, and I just was so impressed with the city. It was like everything was coming to life. My entire life was seeing it in the movies and on TV, but I was like, I'm in Paris. I don't care if 10 people have been here or 100 million, it doesn't matter to me. I'm in Paris. It was wonderful. And I had zero plans. I mean, I have to tell you, I don't mean like 2%. I don't mean like a back of a back. I mean zero plans. First time I ever really did something like that in terms of my traveling, just putting myself out there. Now the day wore on, I napped underneath the Eiffel Tower. I was having a good time. Now have you ever had a day that went really well, but then kind of took a weird, unexpected turn later on in the day? Is there any day that comes to your mind when you can really think like that happened to you? Well, I decided to go to Montmartre, the hill overlooking Paris below. And the evening fell, the sun went down, and it was now getting ready for me to kind of figure out what I was going to do with the night. I was sitting there, and that's part of me about the taking a turn for the worse, because I remember that moment. I was there on the steps, and I suddenly got anxiety, like really bad anxiety, and I said, I'm an idiot. People around me were talking, and I struck up a few very quick conversations, nothing major, like I'm talking about minute and a half conversations with people, and they told me directly, everything's sold out. And they said, not just the hotels, they said even the hostels are sold out. And then I asked another person, and nothing like they were blowing me off, but they were busy, and they're just kind of going by and like, yeah, you're going to find a really hard time finding a place to stay. I got more and more nervous, and I'm not normally one to get nervous or anxious. I'm not normally one to freak out like that, but the more I tried to resist this feeling of like, oh my God, it got even worse, and I was like, I don't want to sleep on these cold, hard, stone steps. So as I was sitting there, figuring out what I was going to do, I had a moment of realization. And it was incredibly simple, yet deceptively powerful. That moment of realization, sitting on those cold, hard stone steps, was that my entire life was always projecting to the future and imagining and saying someday I would be that person I want to be, but I never was actually it. Being worried and anxious wasn't going to do me anything. So I just came into the moment. And I've read in many books, I read all kinds of books by countless authors, and they always say when you come into the moment, the world bows beneath your feet. And I would always read that and be like, yeah, right, that's ridiculous. Come on, give me a break. Really? Coming in the moment? And that's because I never lived it. I never actually experienced it. This was the first time I was fully present. And it was really the first time in my life that I've ever let go. And I mean actually letting go. I paid lip service to letting go. I told people I let go. I pretended like my anxiety from the past was gone, but I never actually let it go until that very moment. I was recently talking with a coworker about this, and he said, Jeff, there's something almost spiritual about this moment for you in the sense that I can tell. He's like, you're not even really talking about the spiritual side of it. He's like, when you talk about this, I can tell something happened. I just let it all go. The fear, the worry, the doubt, the disbelief, the anger at other people for not being able to meet me in my travels, the anger at myself for not being the person I wanted to be. And I just enjoyed the moment, and I felt so happy and free. Have you ever had a moment where you just let go and felt liberated and free? Where you came into the moment? Like listening to those bells outside right now? And the most unbelievable thing happened, as if placed there by angels. I mean, I'm a skeptical person. If I were watching a movie and I saw this happen, I'd be like, get out. Like, no, I would be like, I'd laugh. I'd be like, that doesn't happen in reality. But I know it does happen because I lived it. A group showed up, a very talkative group. A couple South Africans, one Frenchman, and 2 Australian girls. And they had really good energy to them. They were talking, they were having fun. Have you ever felt a little bit nervous before entering into a conversation? Like you knew you wanted to get in, but you were a little bit unsure. That was me in that moment. I'm normally outgoing, but I was in a reflective mode and I wasn't sure if I should strike up a conversation with them. Well, I said, you know what? I have nothing to lose. I have this newfound self now where I let go and I actually feel the letting go. Again, not paying lip service, but actually feeling it. It was like a sigh of relief, a burden off my shoulders, and I struck up a conversation. I have to tell you, that Australian girl was beautiful. She was blonde, she had an incredible accent, completely slayed me. And I got into the conversation with them and they said, wow, we love your energy. We love you talking about your time spent in Budapest. Why not join our group? Spontaneously in the moment, no plans, walked around with them in the city of Paris for the next several hours. Went to bars, we looked at statues, we went down side streets. It was one of the most fun moments of my entire life. At the end of the evening, without me saying anything, without them telling my situation, the 2 South Africans who were originally from England said, Jeff, do you have a place to stay? I said, no, I don't. And I was very honest. I'm an honest person. I said, I just connected on a flight from Budapest to Brussels with my dad and brother. They went back to New York, and they're now in my home state of Connecticut. I just came here spur of the moment. And they go, you know what? Do you want to stay with us? We have an extra cot in our room. And they go, it's really, really weird. We kept on telling the hotel to get rid of the cot. And they said, for whatever reason, as fate may have it, the cot was there. They said, come crash with us. I ended up staying in Paris for 3 nights. I met dozens more people. This is only the tip of the iceberg. I don't have time to go into it today, but what happened after that is so unbelievable, so miraculous, that even I feel disbelief when I'm telling the story. This came from spontaneously going to Paris with no rhyme or reason. Ladies and gentlemen, my entire life I've been a planner, and I've been a worrier, and I've been a someday I'll. And I finally kicked myself off of the planning boat. And I said, Jeff, live the moment. Be spontaneous. Be yourself. That's where freedom is. That was where the liberation was for me. To just be myself. To let go of that worry, that doubt, that fear. And as if magic, in fact, it was magic. Someone showed up who had a place to stay, a cot, who offered me to stay, not only for a night, but for 3 nights, for free. If you stop planning, put down your worries, come into the moment and be yourself, I promise you, you will find your own magic. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff, thank you. Like, and
Take a few minutes to
take a few minutes to evaluate. Yeah.
5 minute break there.
5-minute break. Thank you, everyone.